World Trade Organization in Geneva 2024 was held on July 18. That's just a few months ago. Quote, "The significance of this is it marked the formal resumption of Iraq's accession process to the WTO after a 6-year hiatus. They have intensified the bilateral negotiations for the accession. There's a push now and there will need to be an internationally accepted currency in place ahead of the accession." Iraq exports more than 54 million barrels of oil and its derivatives to America. The best part is that Iraq is now refining their own oil and selling not only raw crude oil exports but now running refineries to generate oil products, or derivatives, and exporting them too. Deputy spokesman for the UN Secretary-General, "Census results must be used for development." There was a lot of news this weekend coming out of Iraq. Prime Minister, Iraq is witnessing unprecedented economic development, and a stable political system. He is using very important keywords. Dr. Shabibi, former governor of the CBI and architect of the RV, had told us if they gave him a safe and stable Iraq, he would give them a higher revaluation or reinstatement. Iraq is the most stable country in the region and becoming a leader. Parliamentary Finance Committee praises al-Sudani. "He has a real will to boost non-oil revenues." Let's start with this one from the WTO. Congratulations to 23 participants, Iraq being one of those, for completing WTO accession training and market access negotiations on goods. This tells us Iraq is preparing for that accession. I continue to hear out of Iraq that they hope for that announcement this week. The efforts are just absolutely, I think, phenomenal. We don't have a date and rate, but we can see Iraq is going to a market economy in the private sector. Question: what happened to the unpublished Gazette edition, possibly containing the 2024 budget? It's still in the top drawer and next to the blue box with the red bow tie on it that says HCL. I believe we are extremely close to what we want to see. The difference between the exchange rate and the effective exchange rate is this: an exchange rate is a price at which one currency can be exchanged for another. It reflects the current market value of a currency in relation to another currency. The real effective exchange rate, on the other hand, is a more comprehensive measure that evaluates a country's currency relative to a basket of other major currencies adjusted for inflation. The RIA provides insights into a country's international competitiveness by considering how much goods and services cost in different countries. They have a real effective exchange rate already. It's being used. My gut feeling is screaming I'm going to finally get to call it quits before Halloween. I am so darn hopeful we are on the short and skinny side of this thing. Al-Sudani, all I aspire to is to serve the Iraqis. Quote, "We are turning into a promising country that represents a cornerstone in the stability of the Middle East," he said, adding, "Iraq and the United States are bound by the Strategic Framework Agreement in 2008, and we are working to activate it." He stressed that the Iraqi people are currently living in a state of hope and optimism. The U.S. Energy Information Administration announced on Tuesday that Iraq's oil exports to the U.S. amounted to more than 5 million barrels during last September. The administration said in a table seen by Shafaq news agency, Iraq exported 5.970 million barrels of crude oil to America during the month of September, up from 5.741 million barrels in August. She added that Iraq exported an average of 222,000 barrels per day of crude oil to America during the first week of September, while it exported an average of 155,000 barrels per day in the second week, and exported an average of 265,000 barrels per day in the third week, noting that the exports of the fourth week reached an average of 152,000 barrels per day. The U.S. Energy Information Administration stated that Iraq came in fifth place in its exports to America during the past month, after Canada, which came in first place as the largest oil exporter to America, followed by Mexico, Saudi Arabia, and Colombia. The Prime Minister's economic advisor, Mazhar Mohammed Saleh, preferred, on Tuesday, to maximize non-oil revenues for the year 2024 compared to previous years. Mazar said in a statement to Al Maluma agency, maximizing non-oil revenues stipulated in the government's program for financial reform, which calls for raising the contribution of non-oil revenues to 20% of total annual revenues compared to the previous low rates. He added, the development of oil and non-oil revenues, at the semi-annual level, between 2023 and 2024 showed a distinctive growth in revenues in general and non-oil revenues in particular. He added, the main objective of this conservative financial planning is to secure spending priorities in the country's general budget, most notably government salaries and wages, retirement pensions, social care, and development projects that are a priority in sustainable development.